Welcome to NAB 2026 at the Ikan booth. I am James Tian, and I'm here with Chris Neto with Midwich Group.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. It's day one of the show, and I'm already exhausted.
I
Been
can
here
imagine.
since Friday. This is a good show to get in early. I like coming in early. You guys are all in early for your booth builds. I get to run into folks, have casual meetings, and they turn into actually great meetings. A lot of people here that not just from the exhibitors, but a lot of people come in early and take in Vegas, and it's WrestleMania week, so it's a very interesting crowd this time in Vegas.
NAB broadcast, it's a small community.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times it's like, it's a reunion of sorts, right? You get to see people you haven't seen maybe in a couple of months, maybe since the last NAB. And it's one thing I always look forward to, like just be able to catch up with people.
Yeah. This is part of for somebody who's purely AV or in the AV business. This is Infocom season. Infocom season starts January 1st as everybody starts preparing for ISE in Barcelona. Once ISE is off the clock, to say, you start preparing for NAB, which is another important milestone in the preparation. And for most AV companies, and a lot of them that'll do all three shows, it's one leading up and to our version. This is the broadcast Super Bowl. Our Super Bowl or our WrestleMania will be in June in the same building.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is the year where there's a lot of Vegas shows going on for technology.
Midwich. Tell the audience what is Midwich. We work with Midwich. We love working with you guys. Let the audience know.
Well, we are we're a very large company. We're actually owned and operated out of the UK by Midwich Group. They oversee the companies. There's a bunch of us under the Midwich Group umbrella. In the US, you will know us more as Midwich US, SFM in Canada as well. So we make up the North American market. We are a distributor. If you want to break it down to its simplest forms, products come in, we pick it up, we ship it out. And a lot of times it's for people that cannot, buy in quantity or have direct relationships with the manufacturers. They go through distribution. A host of reasons why distribution is good for a lot of manufacturers. That's one simple version of it. And in doing so, we get to work with the integrators. We don't sell to the end users. But the nice thing about what I do is I also get to spend a lot of time with the end users, understand where they're coming from, and then become a resource for you guys as a manufacturer and to our integrators who are, pursuing, different verticals in different markets. And that's my title. My job is head of emerging markets. So 4 years ago, we started investigating, as Midwich, like what verticals should we be in? And broadcast was an interesting one. So 4 years ago, myself and three other people from, at the time, Starin, before we rebranded, because that's what we were known as. We rebranded to Midwich US. We came out, took a look at this and said, you know what? We have a couple brands already out here. We could easily transition into the broadcast space, bring our integrators who are, a lot of them were more traditional UC or unified communications integrators using Zoom and Microsoft Teams. And, we saw something happening during that whole Thanos snap that happened where we disappeared for 3 years. We came back. There was a need for quality, better quality. Good enough wasn't good enough anymore. And when I say that is, most people had a laptop, webcam, did a Zoom call, everything was good. During the pandemic, that was what you could do. But then that started to change. We started to get calls for, can we get better cameras? Can we get ring lights? Can we get lighting? Can we get better microphone? It all kind of just naturally evolved. And in spaces where, a laptop and a built-in camera was acceptable, it quickly wasn't, and it's similar to if you're watching people on CNN or Fox News or any of the news stations, and they always cut to the guy or the person who is, got those Apple buds in their ears. And if you want to do that, you want to look the part, then that's great. But we're finding that people have graduated from that. They're taking their calls that are going to be live streamed or, recorded, and they're taking it seriously. They're using better microphones. They're using high quality lighting. They're using teleprompters even in spaces, personal teleprompters to help them keep in focus. So enterprise has definitely come a long way in the last 4 to 5 years. And we're happy to be working with companies like yours, which, it makes the transition from a UC space to a studio space without the all the stuff that makes a studio scary to folks. You start talking studio and broadcast, people start thinking overcomplicated, a lot of space. Real estate is tight. You could do this in a small office. I mean, we're in I would say a 15 by 15 space right here, and this is compact. It's perfect. It's got proper lighting. Audio could be a little bit better, but what are you going to do? You're on the middle of a trade show floor.
Right.
Kudos to you guys for having the the courage to go ahead and put a microphone out. It's great, but I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for. There is a lot of alignment between what you just said and what Ikan represents. We've been around as a company for 20 years. For most of that time, we've been solely focused on the broadcast industry and have found a lot of success. Our broadcast grade lighting has a sizable market share across all television stations. I mean, we're talking about utilized by the O&Os, by Nexstar, by Gray Media, by EW Scripts, by a lot of folks. And so we pride ourselves on being a traditional broadcast manufacturer and being in NAB. This is our backyard. This is our community. But just like you, Chris, during COVID, we saw a growing demand for initially higher quality in-home Zoom meetings and team meetings. So we came up with a very modest line of equipment, lighting, microphones, just to help people level up a little bit in their home offices. And that has evolved to what you're seeing in our space today and what our company's focus is on, which is helping corporations bridge that gap, helping corporations figure out how they can incorporate more and higher quality and more sophisticated broadcast workflows into their space without, again, the scariness of what broadcast is. A control room manned by half a dozen people called broadcast engineers and operators, sound engineers, gaffers, all of those terms that the broadcast industry understands, but beyond that, nobody knows. And for a corporate executive, that just sounds like a lot of overhead, a lot of payroll, additional payroll. And so, yes, we are absolutely committed to bringing broadcast-grade technology into a corporate environment and bridge the gap. And a lot of that gap is awareness of how to use the technology, but fundamentally the technology itself, right? Broadcast and AV has lived on separate tracks simply because AV has graduated from baseband to IP about 20 plus years ago. Broadcast is just starting out in the last handful of years. Up until very recently, broadcast was still fully committed to the coax baseband route, so SDI cables. Even today, 80% of traditional broadcast is running coax. Right? Only 20% has adopted some sort of IP workflow, whether it be 2110 or something like NDI, more consumer or more AV friendly, corporate friendly. And so we're all about that convergence. And so, some of the technology that we've been so excited to bring to market, starting with our PoE lighting, right? How can we help corporations who don't have the budget to get electricians and build out a grid, right? In a space you just mentioned, I've got an existing building. I just want to take an office or maybe a small, medium, large conference room and build something where I can connect with my audience, right? A podcast, right? In a traditional environment, if you have to build pipe and grid and electricity and get an electrician permit, that's a 6-figure investment. That's going to torpedo any corporation just wanting to dabble in it, right? And so with PoE lighting hung on a drop ceiling without, and it's low voltage and it's networked and it's powered over Ethernet, it's controlled over that network cable, that bridges the gap and allows somebody to feel comfortable with the technology. So that's just one example of how we look at the corporate customer as a new frontier of broadcast, especially as broadcast in this traditional sense is consolidating. There's a lot of consolidation going on. And plus, the newer generations of viewers are more and more gravitating towards the on-demand mediums, so streaming mediums, right?
Yes.
Whether it be some sort of streaming long form or short form. Everybody loves the
Yeah.
short
Short
forms,
form.
the
Yeah.
portrait short forms, right?
Yeah. So what you're hitting the nail on the head, for lack of a better term. You're looking at a shift, um, in the corporate space on the mindset to where many years ago we were debating whether video first was ever going to happen. And when I say video first, uh, in the world of corporate, an email became the standard. Prior to that, telephone calls and all this stuff. You're now seeing a push where, because of the generational convergence that's happening in a workspace, multiple generations all interacting and doing their thing, you have a younger generation that's entering the space that is used to a 30-second video to explain what's going on as opposed to reading a PDF or an email. And I think the adoption is really coming, not just to work with, here we are, we got this crop of 20 somethings that is coming in, new hires that don't like reading emails. They don't really want to read manuals. Can you put this on video? Can you make it fast? Can you make it downloadable? Can I carry it on my phone? Can I get this on the train? Information is moving fast. It's got to be consumed differently. When we start hearing that HR is helping to fund a studio because they need to move away from the morning Monday email blasts, we then see there's the progress that we've been waiting for. And it makes a lot of sense. You can get done in a video. I can do with a Zoom call, for example. I can get a Zoom call, things across very simply with my camera on, which may take a lot longer for me to explain on audio. I mean, it's the difference between listening to, an audio podcast or a video podcast. You don't get the expression, you don't get the see. So yeah, there's something there. And I think that everybody's been slow to adopt. I think that the time that we were away, from travel and doing all that, it kind of excelled that. And I don't want to confuse the return to work and all that sort of stuff. People are still going to be in the office. It doesn't mean that they don't want to, instead of an email, get a 30-second video explaining what is going on today in the office. And it's just, you're starting to see more camera-friendly, camera-ready people. What the pandemic did give us was a trust that we can turn our cameras on. I think people are fearless about that now. And prior to that, it was really hard. I remember being on calls, and we were a Zoom house for many years, where people didn't have their cameras on, and it's a different mentality. I also know that the minute I added a little bit of lighting and switched my camera to a DSLR with a 16 millimeter zoom and an ND filter, I gave it a cinematic look. And then I was getting people that were calling me and go, "What's this?" Like, "Wait, that's my DSLR. We don't sell that. I got it to work with my computer. You like the way it looks?" He goes, "It looks like you're on TV. Like, this is like movie quality." I'm like, "It's awesome. It's only 1080p. But by the way, it's being fueled by the little bit of lighting I added. So I went to school for this stuff." And it's such a wild thing that I graduated college in 1998 with a degree in commercial, communications, radio and television. And I used none of that outside of knowing what a BNC cable was. I did use none of that in my early career. And here I am almost 30 years later. And I get to go back to the things that I learned, even though it was analog back in the day, early days of video editing and stuff like that. The things that I learned about proper lighting, proper audio, color balance, that's all in play. And it's not that it was never not a thing in the world of AV. It was very much a very specific to the broadcast space. Like, you would get those, hey, this is a video conference call. It's not a TV show. I think that the expectation now is that the quality is there, and that leveled up quality that we now expect really has come from a couple things. One, it's the advent of IP, the faster the lines in the IT that world. The fact that people have this stuff at home. You can literally set this up in your house, and I know people that have, and they can broadcast right out of their house. There's no reason why you can't just have an simple IP lighting with a camera. It could even be a USB-C camera. The lighting pushes the camera to look better. It's just weird convincing and telling people that, if you just add a little lighting, it can really help that older camera you have, which may not have the right color. The chip is maybe not as good as the newer one. You can get some extra life out of that just by adding a little bit of light. So we'll see. I really like where it's going.
Well said. I mean, I want to stick on this topic too, but since you mentioned so much about lighting, one thing I help people understand about lighting, landscape photographers, right? When you're traveling, there's the concept of the golden hour, right? Dawn and dusk.
Yes.
You take an iPhone picture during dawn and dusk, and those pictures are going to look gorgeous because the natural CRI of the sun at those peak times is going to radiate and bounce off everything and make everything look good. It's going to make you look good. It's going to make your background look good. That golden hour is so important, and you can capture some beautiful photos.
Can I give you some hope?
Huh?
Can I give you some hope?
Yeah.
You're speaking about the golden hour and being very technical about it, but I will give you hope.
Yeah.
In that my daughter, when she was in middle school, knew what golden hour was because of the Instagrams and the TikToks and the Snapchats to get that picture. Your conversation about golden hour to an older generation is going to resonate. The younger generation, the folks that are stepping into leadership roles, that are coming into the industry now, know very well proper lighting at golden hour makes your picture on Instagram. It's a difference between 1,000 likes or 2. You are now, you have people that are like looking for this. They would go, the first time my daughter and her friends ever asked, can we go to take pictures at the beach? I said, sure, whenever you want. Let's jump in the car and I'll take you there. You guys can go take all the selfies you want at the Jersey Shore. They're like, no, we want to specifically go at this time, but we got to leave early because golden hour is at X.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, wow, man. Like I had to learn about the lighting, obviously in much more detail in college, but the fact that there's self-awareness of that, it's going to make that transition. And it's the irony of this is they're going to go into spaces where the lighting isn't good. And somebody has cut lighting out of the budget because why do we need that? We'll just open up, we'll just open up the shades. Yeah, that's not going to work. And to hear that self-awareness in a 15-year-old at a time was pretty impressive. My daughter now, by the way, is pursuing communications in college and has taken audio and radio and video production. So, she's going to be following in Dad's footsteps, but I feel pretty confident that she gets it. Yeah. Like she gets where the translatable skills are going to be, even as somebody who can take pictures out for an Instagram or TikTok videos. Going into the classes, she already understood what a lot of that was. She only got the technical terms. Basically, that's what college is teaching her, the things that they already knew. And it's wild that what they can find off of a YouTube. So.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. That's profound too, right? Because you're right. I mean, I'm used to explaining that to people what it is, but now I realize I don't have to. Like, lighting simulates the golden hour.
Yeah.
Do you want to take pictures at noon? No. High noon? No. Right? Good lighting will give you that, which means that good lighting complements a good camera.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to pick one or the other, oftentimes you're right. People make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
They get the best camera and they skimp out on lighting.
Yep.
But you can get a much better, higher quality video photo outcome by not skipping out on the lighting, but maybe compromising a little bit on the camera, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a difference. And the combination, that makes perfect. And audio too. Let's talk about audio. That is also another component that I think audio, I mean, even though Ikan is a lighting company and we don't do hardly anything with audio truly is even more important than lighting.
Yeah. Well, what happens with when you start talking about when an audio when a lighting company talks about audio, my connection is going to be has everything to do with the motion in the mouth. When people watch a video, they're also reading lips, right? And if you're not properly lit, it's throwing that off. And in the world of enterprise broadcast, one of the things that I've been telling folks is that proper audio is the key to AI. And AI, if it hasn't been said on any of your previous episodes or shows that you've been doing, I'll be the first to say, AI has a conversation to the purists of AV or to the film world, more so into the UC space. So when you start talking about AI to enterprise, they all will go right to Microsoft Teams and Zoom and all that. As wonderful as that is, I do a lot of travel and I meet with a lot of folks. And when you finally get down to like almost like the hierarchy of needs, like the Maslow type thing, what the end user truly wants is they really want proper audio for transcription and translation. Now, transcription and translation with proper audio makes sense. You're going to want better microphones. You want maybe multiple microphones. Now you're going to be fighting with the on-site like designer of the space because they don't want to see a table full of microphones. So now you're going into maybe a microphone that has 3 elements in it, and it's beam forming, right? It has a pickup pattern that you can angle and steer like a steerable microphone. We have obviously cameras that will move around based on sound and noise and we're in assuming, but all that goes to waste if it's not properly lit. Because as important as it is to get the proper audio for the transcription and translation part of the AI, when you take that video and then you run it through, and what a lot of companies are doing as well with AI is taking that, say your video where you have a Monday morning meeting to your team. Well, your team is not just US based. So your face is captured on camera. If your mouth and your video is not done right, it's going to struggle because there are AI programs that will take your image and will lip sync your voice and allow you to have that same message you delivered in English, in Italian, Polish, French, German. But your mouth has to move at the same time because if it's not done right, it's going to look weird. And again, this is a key to AI. And a lot of people forget that. They think we just throw in AI and AI will do it. No, you got what you feed into AI. There used to be a term in the world of AV, garbage in, garbage out. That still applies, and it applies even more with AI in that if you feed it garbage, it's going to pull out garbage. And we could see that when it's, you're asking questions, it's scraping the internet and looking for weird answers for you. And this is just common what people are using AI at home for. So you don't want to do that, even with your video. So there's going to be a bigger push for proper lighting in spaces. And it has a lot to do with what AI is going to do because, yes, it can compensate. It can do a lot of cool things. But if you get it done right, if you give it the right foundation, the right video with the right, with the right composition, with the right everything, it can then make AI's life easier and it will make you look like you're speaking in your voice, your natural way of delivering, certain words properly. And you could think that a lot to do with, just setting up and lighting is part of the environmental component. And there's an environmental component when you're looking at recording and you're looking at delivering, a good product and proper video. So with audio,
that's really exciting, really profound, because what I'm hearing from you, Chris, is like you're talking about like an old world. You have just the let's just say the headquarters, the CEO's American, but he's speaking to like his employees, his colleagues from other branches right across the world. And so you're going from like maybe level 0, which is I'm gonna speak in English. You're just gonna try your best to understand me, or maybe have a resident translator that's gonna try to manually transcribe. But lots of time, lots of specialty. It's right. And then you go from that to maybe like subtitles, right?
Yeah.
And then you go from that to dubbing. But then you're talking about like dubbing
in
plus
your
plus.
yeah,
Right.
dubbing in your tone
Yes.
and it manipulating your
Yes.
voice. And there's people going to be, we talk about this there's always a nefarious side to it,
Sure.
right? Where, oh my God, who's now going to manipulate my image and make me sound like I am, telling people to buy a certain stock, and that wasn't me. Like, there is a thing to that, but to use it for a business purpose the proper way, it helps. And it really comes across when you finally visit, say, an office in Poland, and they start talking to you in Polish, thinking that you actually were fluent in it because they believed that it was you, it was your voice, it was your tone speaking Polish. You want that comfort level, but say no. You're open and honest about it, and say, listen, it was AI that helped me do that, but I felt it was better for me to deliver this message in your language. You're now, you're extending empathy and trying to be a better citizen to a global, conversation than you are just, hey, figure it out or wait for the subtitles. And God knows subtitles can get really bad too. So why not do it proper, have a proper, translation? Even there are companies that just specialize in that. And it's very interesting where this is going to go. So
communication is the foundation of all society, right? And to be able to bridge that gap, that
separates us from other things in the world. We have the ability to communicate, and we know how to communicate across long distance. And you know what? It's what makes us civilized, right? And understanding culture and things like that, I think, is proper. But a lot of it goes back to the very, very, very basic conversation. Me and you standing in front of each other, reading body language. All we're doing in this day and age now is transmitting it digitally over video. Not supposed to be scary.
So I loved everything you said about what AI can do for, bridging the communication gap, translation, localization, all those things. Do you see, and I agree with you, AI is absolutely a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
How you use it as a tool or as a weapon is really
correct.
at the hand of the beholder, right? Do you also see AI in, it's a, everybody's talking about it. There's not a single industry that will not be impacted by AI, and there's not a single industry that's not talking about it. It's certainly the talk of the town here as well. Where do you see AI in corporate AV broadcast? How do you see AI being a tool for good and not what I think a lot of people justifiably are fearful of, that it will reduce jobs? How about that? Yeah.
I think the main thing is it's not so much a job reduction and the fear of that. I think what AI does for us is it removes complexity. The simple tasks is what needs to it needs to be done. I'm sorry, and if I'm going to offend anybody by saying this, but there's a lot of things in the world of corporate that seem like busy work. And it's just because things have to get done. And I've stood up and said, why do I got to do this? Because it needs to be done. And sometimes it's, you got to do this for record or for procedure wise, right? If you are in a Six Sigma process, right, keeping track of that process is important if you want to make it repeatable, scalable. Having AI to assist you to get that stuff done, I don't see there's anything wrong with that. Unless you're fearful that somebody can type faster than you, because AI can take notes, maybe note takers and stuff like that. But I also believe that it's a good backup. There's not there are jobs in this world that used to happen. There's not many wooden wheel makers anymore. The wooden wheel is now niche. You have an old, you want to rehab an old horse and buggy. You may need a wooden wheel. Here's 3 people in the world that do it. So you're going to get it down to a craft. I think like everything else, it's an evolution. Where a job may go away, another one pops up. I hated time coding. Sitting and watching a video and kind of like saying, oh, here's a part. having AI kind of just give it a quick run through and say, here's some highlights, on a video, that makes life a lot easier. The ability to not have, where you can do cloud storage, for example, and where AI can assist two people working in two different parts of the world on the same video at the same time in real time. Does it matter that, I'm getting AI's help or having AI check the color grading I did? I don't know. The fearful part of it is you can either work with it or you can hurt, you can get really scared and say, forget it. Well, I mean, there's plenty of landscape jobs still out there that AI won't do. Well, I've seen wrong. I was here for CES. I saw the robotic lawnmower. So maybe that's still, maybe that'd be an issue, but it's like anything else, you got to see that the future is coming and you got to adapt. And that's why we're still around as humans, is we're constantly adapting. And this is technology. This is nothing crazy. I think we will just adapt our workflows and everything will just kind of. I want a self-driving car, man. There's times I don't want to drive at night, and that would be that's aided by AI. There's a lot of good. I think there's a lot of good on positive. And someday somebody's going to look at this, 50 years from now and go, dude, you did not see that coming. And I don't have all the answers. But I tell you, if it can help to do more with less, because a lot of corporations, that's their MO. You're seeing it now in the news and people are doing layoffs and they're thinking maybe AI is going to fix it. It's not. We're witnessing that. It's just, you can't replace people with AI. It's not ready. I believe that there's a place for both to be coexisting. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Chris. And the way we describe it internally, because as a small company, we leverage AI a lot. And so internally, we look to AI to eliminate grunt work. I think that's the term that you would describe it there. So I'll give you an example. Like when we release a new product, we have a whole process of having to fill out. So several of our large reseller networks want us to fill out a spreadsheet, right? With basically their template so that we can put all of our content metadata in specific structured templates, send it to them. And all they have to do is upload that and boom, our product is now on their webpage.
Yes.
That used to take somebody hours of work, and now it's brain numbing. It's I feel bad for anybody that has to do that work because literally it's just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy. It's really, really, really tedious work. And the people, bless their heart, that are doing it for us, they don't enjoy that. So guess what? Now we have an automated process using Claude that does it in minutes, scheduled, without any intervention. It just creates the form. Now our person just needs to double spot check, make sure everything is in the right places, make sure pricing, UPC, those are probably the most important things. And then, go down from there. So it went from hours of really tedious work to minutes. And what does that free up that person to do? It frees up that person to be creative, to do what they want to do as a productive and happy member of our company. And oftentimes it's that grunt work, it's that monotonous work that drives people insane. And so that's where we're leveraging AI.
I'll give you a very simple, brief thing that gave me anxiety. I travel a lot. My business expenses drove me insane. And that's because for many years we were just doing spreadsheet as the thing. Then we went to this product and app that basically you take a picture of your receipt. It does all the inputting of the stuff, categorizes everything. All you basically have to do is make sure that the date matches to a trip that you're taking. And it then takes it, fills out all the back end stuff, puts it in. I'm not even at the hotel, leaving the restaurant, because I do it while at the restaurant. By the time I get to the hotel, it's already submitted. All I have to do is hit OK. That saved me, how much time on the weekend I would spend with receipts across a dining room table, trying to match receipts that the ink was almost wiped out because I had it in my pocket. Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff is a game changer. Like, I don't honestly, if somebody was to say, Chris, Midwich is, we're Midwich is done tomorrow. You have to go look for another job. I would ask, do you have an AI expense thing? Because if I'm going to be back in my living room doing that, that's a no. And it like you said, it takes so much. But what you don't factor in is how much time that's actually saving maybe your accounting department that would have to take all this receipts, scan them, rescan them, divvy them up into certain categories for tax purposes. It's a heaven sent, right?
Mhm.
To be able to do something like that, to have it, and I don't have to worry. I get to, just a matter of taking pictures on my phone and sending it out. As long as I have access to the to data network, fine. One of the things else, in a more related example to
Okay.
AV, one of the things that AV has done, we thought we were very forward advancing for many years when we were trying to capture data in spaces, right? I've had this conversation on AV in the AM, which is my Sunday conversation that I do on the social media. One of the things that I love bringing up is, and I like to stir the pot every once in a while. When you stir the pot and you ask the question, is data analytics the new engineer of spaces? Because in the corporate world, they need to justify the spend. Well, data shows they use conference rooms, X amount of hours, and they can further develop that and say, well, we need video conference rooms, and those we have X amount. So when we redo this floor, we want 2 video conference rooms and 2 presentation only rooms. They had data, or tried to get some data to justify that. Well, one of the things that AV has done horrendously is we were able to give customers data, or we would get all the data and go, wow, we captured all this data. We did not employ data scientists to analyze that data to say, not only do you need, all right, let's make it simple. You need video conference rooms, you need presentation rooms. Well, how about the data that says that at noon, your video conferencing died down? What about the data that says you're in a glass building and as the sun moves, nobody likes to do video conferences because they're blown out because the sun is behind them and you have no shades? How do you justify buying shades? So that data, all the mountains of data that we were collecting, whether it was through touch panels, whether it was through video conferencing MCUs back in the day, and then trying to align that with the building infrastructure stuff, the temperatures, was the air conditioning working at 100% because it was too hot in the space? Could that have been lowered by dropping the window shades automatically into your control system in that room? That kind of data, we had stacks of it. Nobody wanted to pay for or hire a data analyst. AI takes all that. You basically put in the parameters that you're looking for, and it could shape out a roadmap of how much spaces you need, where you should be putting these conference rooms, what side of the building it should be on because of sunrise, sunset. Where are you going to locate these? Does a digital signage system in a conference on a floor, does digital signage attract people? Because now you can see heat mapping. If that's the case, then do you put a coffee pot by the digital signage? Because then it gets people in front of there while they're making their coffee. Now they're looking at the digital signage, which is telling them the stuff that you want, right? You got to give them a hook to come. And data and AI can help us figure those things out. I discovered room usage was low I had 3 rooms when I was an end user working on a pharmaceutical. I had 3 exact sister rooms. They had the same seating capacity, same size monitor, same gear, same everything. 2 of the rooms consistently busy. The third one was not. It didn't add up. I couldn't figure it out. So I said, I'm going to go physically sit outside and figure this out. So I sat outside the room and I watched people move in and out of the space and try to figure out where they were. After about 3 days of me sitting there going, I can't figure out what is missing. And it was like, remember those things as a kid, you had like, here's 2 pictures. What's different? And it was that kind of weird where it's like, oh, this person, this picture, the coffee mug was missing. I didn't realize that. Well, in the 3 sister rooms that I had, what I didn't realize is that in one of the rooms, there was a piece of furniture missing, credenza. And what did that do? The credenza was where they put lunch and breakfast and their snacks. So long-term meetings were not being held in that space because a credenza was missing. On paper, everything with a reporting from that room that everything was 100%. They blamed, oh, it's the tech. It's not the tech. Same tech as in 3 other rooms. It was a credenza. And because of culturally, they wanted to have coffee and donuts in the morning, they would not book that room. They would book the other 2 that had the credenza. That credenza happened to be broken in shipping, and they never replaced it. So the first step was get a folding table. They didn't want the folding table outside the room because then anybody walking by would grab it. They wanted a small enough table in the room so they can have their coffee and donuts. That fixed the problem. Usage shot up immediately. So all I had to do was then let that run for a little bit, show that usage went up, went back to facilities. I'm like, can you order the credenza that got damaged? Because that will increase room usage. And I've proven it here. Look, room usage has already gone up for the last 2 weeks ever since we put a folding table in it, which is unacceptable. We don't want a folding table in there. Let's do what we meant to do instead of cutting back.
Yeah.
So that's just a funny thing, like where data analytics could have came in. The data would have probably shown, that everything was kind of okay, but the physical space and AI could look at because you could have a camera in there that would analyze everything in that space. And there are companies out there right now that will do that and say, that room, the first thing they would notice is that there was a credenza piece of furniture missing. They do that now because if there's a 6-person conference room and there's 6 chairs and one of the chairs is missing, there are companies I'll say, you got to, send a trouble ticket, immediately get a chair up there. It needs 6 chairs. So you can do cool things.
That's a great story. And it also, the bigger theme I take from what you've just told me is that, as a society, we've been taught to collect data, but up until now, we've not had the manpower to understand what to do with that data. And so what AI can help with big data is uncover something like a missing credenza, or for executives, like what are missed opportunities? What are things that they're not, how do you have repeatable success? Why is it that these videos had a tremendous amount of engagement and view, and these videos, like 2 or 3 of them, but then the other 6 or 8 had very little, right? Like there's all these, like, you always wonder, like, what the outlier, okay.
Yeah. A great example of that is courtroom systems.
Yeah.
Courtroom systems are, you want a courtroom system to all be alike.
Yeah.
But the fact is that they are presided over by a judge, and that's their court. So they want their room to be to them. It's a very personal space, and we wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
As somebody who goes into a courtroom, you wouldn't understand the personalization that goes into that. But a judge who is has that courtroom for the next X amount of years wants certain things done a certain way. And it's a great example of personalizing a space. And when you're doing the repeatable conference rooms and spaces, there's always going to be that one person like, why couldn't we have one button that does this? And you can't because you standardized it and it's not known. I think AI can bring all that data together and now justify that you need a button that lowers the lights to 50%, drops the shades, because most meetings in this room is in the afternoon where the sun is behind you. You don't want to put that on the end user to go, they'll just go ahead and I'm here for a call. I'm just going to make that call. And then why are my calls so bad? Constantly calling trouble tickets in. Well, if your shades were dropped, it could have saved that video. We could have got snippets off that call. Look, it's just making things a lot easier.
So well said, Chris. Chris, I feel like we should definitely continue some of this either offline or maybe in a further podcast.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for all
especially at a busy show.
Yes, and thank you for the insight. The biggest takeaway is the golden hour, the fact that your daughter, as well as others that are engaged in social media, understand and know how to utilize that. That's very
digital
profound.
Natives that know this.
Yeah.
That's the term. Some people don't want to use that, but people that grew up with digital in their life, these selfies, these high camera shots, they all understand that. They're going to come expecting conference rooms to be as easy, as simple, and as respectful to the things that they want, right? So yeah, why can't I have a golden hour, moment inside a conference room? Why harsh lighting? Yeah, it's great that we have fluorescent light tubes. It is bad for video. Like, why can't I have the same? Like, I go outside and sit in the bench at 5:45, and the sun hits at a certain time, and I'll send this out. That person could probably send a selfie to their mom every day, and it looks like they're in a tropical island because everything looks pretty. So we'll see.
And what is the phrase? I'll end this. I'll end with this. Your phrase. What was good enough is not good enough anymore. What was that phrase you always say?
No, it's what was good enough isn't good enough anymore, and it's pretty much becoming a standard. I think it's a call to arms for people that expect certain amount of quality, and I don't think it's acceptable anymore to just be good enough. I think that good enough it's a very defeatist. To me, there's different ways of looking at it. Good enough is just enough to some. To me, it's a very much a defeatist. Like, I gave up. This is the best we can do. I'm just saying that we are creative technologists at our core, right? Whether you're, now I love to pick on the IT guys because I love to say that the IT guys don't have the creativity, but they have creativity as well. From our roots of AV, where we come from music, video background, photography background, failed musicians, failed DJs. I'll be the first one to tell you. We have a need to be creative, and we can come up with creative solutions. And installs are where we get to be a little bit more creative. Sometimes the answer isn't just to put an all-in-one something in the room. Now you need go back to your roots, sharpen your pencil. This is what you went to school for. Do a better transport, do a better video, add some lighting, add some acoustic treatments to the space, make it a better experience for your customer. And yes, it may have increased a bit the cost, but in turn, you're going to end up getting multiple. Like, that's the standard. You're recreating the standard, and it's not being accepted. You're not accepting it's good enough. Now you're delivering quality. I don't think anybody just buys something for, a lot of people will just buy the base model something, but I think there's always that need. And even the base model, whatever it is, whether it's a car, whether it's a stereo, whether it's a TV, base model, entry level is great. I think everybody wants a little extra. And I think that we all earned it or deserved it along the way, especially as we mature in our industry. So,
well, thank you so much, Chris, for leaving us with such profound wisdom.
Cool. Thanks.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you and talking with you. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anytime.